Yay! Okay, Ducky, entertain them while I go get my tea, hey? Oh, hello, internet. Just give me a sec. I am online with Ducky! Exclamation point. Oh, hello! Hello, District Zombie. Yeah, I was gonna make a video. I had a whole plan for today and it didn't happen, so here I am live streaming. Old Ducky with a hat. It's a bit too much light, hey? I don't know. Is it better with the light on or off? Maybe on. But if I can just... I don't know. It'll have to do... Off? Okay. Maybe if I just try and make my screen a bit brighter, that'll work better. Yeah, no. Yeah, well, now we've got the problem of the backlighting, but hey, we gotta have some light somewhere. What happens if I turn that off? Hang on. Whoa, it's a little bit too dark. Oh no, I can't see because the screen went dark. How about if I go? Nope. Maybe that's okay. Old Ducky's still a little bit washed out, but... Oh, if I put you over here somewhere. There we go. That'll do us. Just check I didn't miss anything. Yay, okay. So, well, I had a whole plan for today because I had the house to myself and it just didn't go. So, last night about midnight, no, last night I went to bed sort of when I was supposed to, but then once I got into bed I started writing a poem because, you know, random inspiration, and that ended up going past midnight. So whoops, didn't get a good start to my sleep there, and then of course everyone wakes up early in the morning, and the last few days, maybe the past week or so, I've been really sensitive to sounds in the morning, so it's been really hard to sleep. I think it's partly just because the weather is quite warm in Sydney at the moment. Hasn't been too bad in my area, but, you know, my room has been hovering around 26 degrees, I think, for the most part. So it's not really the most comfortable. Actually, what's the temperature now outside? Let me just check. Weather... 24, yeah, there's not much point opening my windows. So that's a shame. Yeah, not sleeping well. And then once everyone leaves, it gets quiet and I sleep in for a little bit, which I don't think is really good, because when you go and have a sleep in, most of the time you just feel groggy when you wake up. But whenever I try and wake up, like get out of bed when I actually wake up the first time, I end up having to have a nap anyway because I just can't concentrate, so that's shit. Yeah. So this morning, like, usually when I wake up around 10, like, most days I'll be able to do some stuff, and, you know, I had a plan, because one of these ideas, that some of those, like, self-help psychology type people go on about is, like, If you're struggling to get things done with your day, yeah. Oh, District Zombie, are you in Australia as well at the moment? I think you might be one of my Aussie viewers. Because yeah, Australia's going through a bit of a heat wave at the moment. I'm on the side of Sydney where it's not too hot. Sometimes out west it'll be 10 degrees hotter than it is here. So yeah, oh, you're in Sydney. Coolios. Yeah, well, so you know what the weather's like out at Penrith, 40 something some days. Um, oh, paper vampire, you rubbing it in, hey. 2 blankets. Oh my god. There are some days that I can still sleep under the blanket, but mostly I just sleep under the sheet because the sheet keeps the mozzies away. Yeah, anyway, what was I going on about? Yeah, Penrith is terrible. I lived near Penrith for a while, and it's just, you need aircon, really. Oh dear. No, so this self-help stuff, right? One of the ideas is if you're having trouble with motivation and lethargy and like getting your day started, you're supposed to set a plan because if you have a plan, it helps you. Oh, I'm just gonna save this ant that's drowning. Hang on. Don't worry, ant, I'm coming to the rescue. If you could stop jumping in the water, that would be nice. But you don't understand English, so what can we do? Yeah, setting plans, what am I going on about? I don't know, it just gives you things to do. Because I'm finding with my Sundays cleaning day, ooh, I've almost done a year's worth of Sundays cleaning day. I'm getting pretty close. With that, I find my Sundays are actually some of my better days. It can take me a while to get started on a Sunday, but I get the thing done, and it gives me a bit of a structure for the day. So last night I was like, hey, let's plan my tomorrow. And so I was gonna do singing practice, film a vlog, and do some songwriting. And the only thing I got done out of that was the singing practice and singing. I was gonna do it in the morning, but I woke up so I did my singing after lunch. And actually, I didn't really have lunch. I just had cereal for breakfast, probably around 10 something, just before 11 maybe. And then didn't really have any lunch. Eventually figured out I should eat something, so I had some cheesels, but eh. And I probably only had the cheesels around 3 o'clock. And then 4 o'clock, the rice cooker went off, so I made a gigantic sushi roll and underestimated how much rice was in that, so I got a little bit too full and didn't eat dinner. But no, and I ate that after singing practice, so I was kind of singing on an empty stomach, and I haven't been doing a whole lot of singing practice, which I really should be because I'm looking for a band, and I need to keep my level up to make sure that when a band does want me to audition, I won't completely screw it up. So yeah, but singing on an empty stomach is not a good idea, and I just kind of overdid it. I was trying a thing that I thought I could do, and I couldn't, and so in the middle of one of the songs, I was sort of just like gagged on my own voice. Yeah, I gotta be a little bit careful with that sometimes. Auditions are an interesting thing. I've done my fair share. I have auditioned for bands, and I've also run bands and had people come in to audition, and it's a nightmare process. I do have one thing, like, I guess it's sort of an audition, like, someone sent me some tracks and I'm like, well, I'll see what I can do with them, and, that might turn into something. But yeah, no traditional auditions at this point. Although, like, we live in a digital era, so I guess digital auditions might be okay. Should probably still meet people in person if you're eventually going to turn it into, like, a band, so that, they're not a psycho or anything. But Yeah, what? That was, I think that was why I was going to do the songwriting. Um, to try and, show someone what I do. Um, but no, all I did with that was just listen a bit. But no, auditions. I've this time around I haven't gone to any, but when I was in the lead up to Winter Gaunt, which would have been 2013, I did a few auditions, and oh my god, the first audition I ever did was really terrible. So this would have been 2011, because I think that's when I started thinking, hey, I should actually go and do this band thing instead of just dreaming about it. And I met these two guys, I forget what platform I found them on, but yeah, a bass player and a guy who liked to think of himself as a guitarist, but he was really bad at it. They were trying to start a band and we met up, and they were all like in their ad, they're like, oh, we want to be a household name, that whole musician's dream of being a rock star or whatever. And I turned up and like the guitarist, he'd sent me some tracks, hey, let's do these, and I brought in a thing like trying to approximate drum tracks because we didn't have a drummer to do stuff with. It was just me, the bass player, and the guy who thought he was a guitarist. And we're jamming along. I could sort of get the bass player, like he was playing right stuff, but the guitarist was playing out of tune, and I don't even know what he was playing. I could not listen to him. I had to listen to the dodgy drum track I'd put together and the bass player to figure out where I was. And I mean, like it was, they were nice enough, I guess, a little bit, in the clouds and whatever. And so I think maybe we did two sort of get-togethers, or maybe it was just the one, I don't remember. But towards the end, they told me the song name they had, and basically, like, I don't remember what the actual name of this song that they were writing or thinking about writing was, but the abbreviation was SHIT. And they told me the name and then had me think about it, and I was like, haha, okay, real mature, whatever. But then they tell me the band name, and I don't remember exactly what the words were, but it was something along the lines of crawling under nothing to something, and that's what they wanted to call the band to become a household name. And I'm like, yeah, that's gonna work. Also, not everyone, like, they just assuming that, hey, let's get this chick in and tell her this band name that we want to have. And I'm just like, wow, oh, hello. Never intended my words, walking like the most professional self. Oh, thank you. Dwight Brady, I don't think I've seen you before. Here, hang on, how do I find that? Yeah. Well, yeah, that was my first audition, and it was just like, really bizarre, because I think they were trying to be musicians, but they were also beginners as well, so it was all a bit of a shit show, basically. And yeah, their band name, I would not go with that as a band name. Sorry, but yeah, I can kind of understand that some people might get a sense of humor from something like that, but yeah, and probably at the time I was a little bit more sensitive to some of those things. So like, you're getting a female singer in and you want to call the band this, like, oh, come on. So that was just like weird. And then after that, I'm not sure I did any auditions, but I came across a guitar player, and she was like, hey, you're a chick, I'm a chick, maybe we can, do something together one day. And I was like, let's just start a band. So that's how I got my first thing going, which was Dead in Motion. The only thing we ever performed was a uni gig. But that was pretty cool until we found out we got another guitarist, and he was plagiarizing one of his favorite bands. They were having a joke. Yeah, well, I think like they were in a sort of humor kind of thing, but it's hard to describe the attitude of those guys wanting to call the band that. Because they were trying to take themselves seriously, but this guitarist, he needed to practice so much more, oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, the girl that I started the band with, Dead in Motion, the guy guitarist, we found out when we got a bass player in. The bass player recognized that this guitarist was essentially plagiarizing this Japanese band, and we're just like, so we can't use this song idea. We had to, one that I'd written a lot of lyrics to, which eventually became a Rainbow Death Ray song. We had to do surgery on that, and before it became a Rainbow Death Ray song, I did even more surgery to it. But yeah, no, that wasn't fun finding out that, because he was a good guitarist. It's just like, he was saying he'd written these songs, but they were plagiarized, and it's just like, we're not, you know, if you want to be in a cover band, just say so, kind of thing. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, I don't remember exactly how that band collapsed. I think maybe the drummer that we got couldn't do it anymore because he was coming in from ages away. Yeah, I don't remember. And then I think I got towards the last semester of my undergrad music degree, which I did majoring in composition and music production, and it was just so much work because throughout my composition degree, I don't feel like I actually learned how to write music. You know, like I learned the theory of it, but I didn't figure out how to write music until a lot later. And I think I just learned it through practice and trial and error, and sometimes it takes a while for information in your brain to click, especially with a skill like that. And I still struggle with writing music. Like, it doesn't come naturally to me. I have to really sit down and be like, what am I going to do? The strategy I found that works best for me is listening to something I like and going, okay, what can I take from this song to put into my song? And then which bits do I not like, and I'll change those things, and eventually it morphs into my own song. But uni didn't really teach me that. There was maybe one teacher who was like, that's a valid strategy, but it wasn't, they never really showed us how to do that. I had to figure it out myself because, you know, you worry about if you start off with someone else's song, you worry about it being too much like that. But no, after a while, when you change it, you know, there were so many songs that have the same kinds of elements that you are eventually going to. Are you lyrics first or music first? I was Blind Vision's one on here. Oh, okay. Oh, 10 years ago, eh? Yeah, no, I don't remember everyone from 10 years ago. Yeah, that's right. YouTube tried to make everyone switch to real names. Hey, back when they were pushing Google Plus. I would definitely say I'm a music first person. I have to have the music first. Anytime I've tried to write lyrics first, the lyrics, like I can write lyrics, and I could even sometimes come up with the melody to go with it. But when I try and put the music to those lyrics, it just all falls apart. I just can't get that to happen. Which is a shame because I've got like books of poetry that could possibly be adapted into lyrics, but because I'm so bad at putting music to them, it just doesn't work. I don't know. I might, if I had a collaborator maybe who could look at my lyrics and then figure out what music to go under them, that might be a way to do it, but usually I have to have music first and then I'll write the lyrics. So yeah. Whew. So I've done a few things. There's one person I've been collaborating with, which that's sort of been on and off, but like he writes all the music first, and he writes all the music first, and then I come and put lyrics over it. District Zombie, you write lyrics first, do you? Hang on, that disappeared a bit fast. Lyrics first, you find that easier. That's interesting. Like, I understand some of the theory of writing lyrics first, but I don't know, maybe it's a genre problem. It could just be like the way I think, but with genre as well. I did a songwriting course with Clive Harrison. He's got a songwriting book, which I have. I haven't read it, but I have it. But I was in his classes at the Australian Institute of Music. He's really cool. Like, he teaches you songwriting, but also is like a motivational kind of guy and very open. He's awesome. Yeah, I did his classes and he teaches you like, okay, so you've written these lyrics and then the way that you write the melody to them, like there's a few different ways depending on what emotion you want to get, but sometimes what you can do is you say the words out loud and then you exaggerate the pitches in your speech. Like if you listen to me speaking, sometimes my voice will go up and down, whatever, and you just sort of emphasize those in a musical way. And then you take those notes and you can sort of see what chords might fit under it and you can try those different ones out. And then there's a whole bunch of, hang on, I'm just going to minimize this because my brother's in Japan and he's giving us an update, and it's a little bit distracting. Yeah, no, what am I saying? So you get the chords underneath, and then I think it works best for maybe like pop music or, more commercial styles of music. You get those chords underneath the melody, and, there's like that four chords pattern, and there's various ways like the blues patterns and whatever, and then you can, sometimes substitute a different chord in, and that's how you can build a song from that. But because I'm more into metal and industrial, I've just struggled to get that to work for me, doing lyrics first, because I think with metal, I tend to like more rhythmic styles of metal. So instead of being a lot of chords and a lot of complexity in that sense, it's the rhythm that's more important. So sometimes, like, you could even just be on one note and just do chugga chugga chug chug chug, whatever like that. And no one at my uni really taught how to do that. They did have one-on-one classes for each stage of your composition learning, but for me, I don't know, it was hard because none of the one-on-one teachers that I had from memory, I don't think any of them were into metal. Like, I had a jazz guy one time, and I played him some of the bands that I like, and he's like, oh, so you're into the rhythm stuff. But when I played him some symphonic metal, he decided that was dead boring and not interested at all. And like, I can sort of see that. Symphonic metal, I think I prefer mainly for the vocals because I can sing along. But with the music behind it, I'm not that interested because it does tend to be more based on chords sometimes and like, sounding pretty and whatever. Whereas, I don't know, I probably played like Disturbed or something and they've got that whole rhythm thing going on, and his vocals are also often quite syncopated and whatever. Yes, I just struggle with the lyrics first. I don't know, District Zombie, what style of music you do, but maybe that's a thing. Otherwise, it's just the way my brain works. I'm not. Music isn't what I was naturally good at. I was a maths nerd. So yeah, hang on, this thing's annoying. What? Thingy. There we go. Yeah, I don't know. Some of those teachers were a bit odd. I also found, like, so with the composition course, right, what happens is, depending on what level you're at, they'll set a certain amount of time that you need to fill in music and like in a certain number of songs, but you can kind of divide it one way or the other. And then you submit it and a panel marks it, and then you get back your overall score and also the comments from the markers. And it wasn't helpful to me because one year, after one semester, the feedback was something like, one of the markers said the chorus isn't catchy at all, like it's no good. And then another marker was like, this chorus is so catchy. And I'm like, this is the same song. And I'm getting exactly opposite reactions. It's so subjective. And so I was like, well, I don't know who to listen to. How do I improve? It's really stressful. District Zombie, you're more of rap. You don't struggle with lyrics, but the music is harder. Oh, okay. Rap is a very, like, lyrics-driven, form of music, so I can understand why lyrics comes first. Yeah, the music side of rap arguably isn't that important by comparison to the words and your vocal rhythm, so yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. Someone tried to get me in to do a feature spot on a rap thing, but, I don't really know how to write rap. And yeah, his is a particular style of rap, so yeah, I didn't know how to approach that. But it'd be kind of cool to do, because like I like singing along to some Eminem, he's got some clever songs and stuff. And some of the rhyming schemes he does. Yeah, anyway, what was that tangent about? Music. Music school auditions and stuff. So the panel grades, independent of each other, sounds unconstructed. I don't know if the panel like gets together to mark the thing, or if they're marking in like separate rooms. like it's possible that they could have been arguing with each other, then they all write a separate comment. You know what I mean? So I'm not really sure how that works. Did I miss a comment? What kind of style? Oh, what was that question in relation to? I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't know which part of my ramble you're referring to there, District Zombie. Yeah, I don't know. So, what was I talking about before I went on a tangent about music? Was it just auditions and things? And writing music. Oh, someone asked about the lyrics and music thing. Yeah, okay. The guy. Oh, okay. The guy who wanted me to write rap. It's like I forget the name, but it's like that sort of horror kind of rap. There's a name for it. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but yeah, like really aggressive sort of I don't know, twisted horror, like, you know, clown coming at you with an axe kind of rap. I don't know, as sometimes Eminem gets put into horrorcore, that could be it. Yeah. That sounds like it might be what it is. I'm really not great with rap styles and whatever. No, not all rap is horrible. What do you want about Paper Vampire? I don't listen to a lot of rap, but I like Eminem, or at least I liked his older stuff, maybe. I don't know, he's gotten a bit weird. I think he's gotten really serious or something. I don't know, I haven't really been paying attention, but like the thing that he did with the Trump rap, I thought, you know, like Eminem used to be funny. It's just sort of changed, and but yeah, I haven't actually listened to many of his albums, and sometimes it feels like he's sort of gotten a bit no Pamper Vampire. Yeah, like what have I got on my computer with for Eminem? Let's have a look. It's too bad I don't have a proper webcam, so I can't show you my screen. I've got like that screen capture thing, which I haven't really experimented with, but you know, I'm sure there would be a way to do it. Okay, so Lose Yourself is fun. You went political, yeah. Lose Yourself, well, I've got the Eminem show. Some of these are my brother's and some I own. Oh, the new album's awesome. Is that the one that has the Venom song on it? Because I sort of listened to that. I liked the Venom movie for obvious reasons. But Eminem's song, I was sort of just like I didn't listen much, but not exactly that keen. I don't know. I better finish drinking my tea before it gets too cold. Oh yeah. I want to get Venom on like DVD or something. Oh, we've got a Blu-ray player in the other room, but my computer's so old it's still DVD, and my eyesight's so bad that I can't tell the difference that much anyway. Alright, got some chamomile into me. I'm going to be peeing all night, but that's okay. I'll be calm as I do it. Yeah, what was I talking about? Or was I just rambling at random? So, the auditions thing. What else? Oh, yeah, no, when we had Dead in Motion, that's probably when we had most of the weird auditions, because it took a while to get that full lineup together. So, some of these people you wouldn't even meet, like, wherever I posted the ads, I posted in a magazine, I think it was the Drum Media magazine, which has now become the music and now doesn't have like a free ad section, which is sad. There was the Faster Louder forums. I think I probably mentioned all this stuff before. Some things have changed, but all the things I used to do back then would get emails from people, and there was this one from this drummer who must have had like ADD or something, because his email was ridiculously energetic and kind of crazy, not great punctuation, going off into capitals every now and then, and you're just like, whoa, let's just slow down there, hey. Yeah, but I thought, oh, well, I guess we could give him a chance because back then I was just like, well, we'll see who's who and whatever. I mean, when we're practicing every week anyway, might as well get some of these people in. So I asked him to come in and never heard back. So I think he was just like hyperactively typing away and then on to the next idea. Um, I don't know. Keeping the attention of some musicians is an interesting process. And then there was a guy who, I think he was saying he was an 8-string guitarist or something. Um, but yeah, what's this? Message retracted. Um, no, this 8-string guitarist dude, he said, like, we said go to Central Station because that was near my uni. Central Station's like the main big, gigantic train station in Sydney. Um, and yeah, just like telling him he could come to the uni, but like maybe it's easier to meet there. And there's like or there was a Hungry Jack's. I haven't been in a while, so I don't. It might still be there. I don't know. There's like meet at Hungry Jack's. We'll come get you there. And just couldn't find him, and he was late to begin with. And then yeah, I tried to run out to find him because I think we actually told him to come to the uni, and he couldn't find it, so we said stay at the Hungry Jack's. And then he was saying he was at some like grocery store or something, but couldn't be more specific about where he was. And yeah, I tried to go out and find him, but by then, like, our rehearsal time, you can only book 2 hours at my uni, so our rehearsal time was like over. We had to pack up. Thankfully, they've got all the amps and drums, like most of the drum kit. You only need to put cymbals on and stuff. But yeah, it just like turning up late, and then the Hungry Jacks caught fire. Oh wow, I've really been out of the loop. Oh, I've been intentionally out of the loop lately, like trying not to keep up with politics and so on, because it's just stressful. I'll look things up when it's time to vote, otherwise, who cares? But yeah, I haven't been keeping up with much of the news either in the last week or so, and before that, wasn't paying that much attention really. It's just, yeah, sometimes I get a little bit carried away and watch too many political shows. Anyway, yeah, no, musicians not showing up on time. Um, I don't know, I think this guy might have just moved to Sydney as well, so he didn't really know what he was doing and didn't know how to research maps of places. I don't know, we didn't meet him, and then after that he never came back. It became a local hotspot. But um, yeah. Oh, actually, and then what? We had a few other interesting people come in that first Dead in Motion, but then what? I think after I joined Wintergaunt, when I joined Wintergaunt, I kind of just focused on that. But when that fell apart, the drummer left. We were having trouble finding anyone else, and then the bass player left, and then there's only 2 of us left, and it collapsed. Because then it was just the 2 new members of the band. After Wintergaunt, I went back to trying to get Dead in Motion back together, but of course, people had changed, so completely different lineup. And then auditioning people again, and one of the drummers, I think I've only talked about this on Facebook, not YouTube, but one of the drummers who turned up to this audition, like, he seemed alright, double kick. He had this weird kick pedal where instead of like, usually you've got the main kick pedal and then the 2 beaters up here, they're going donka 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 donka, and then you have a little bar that connects to the other pedal, and then you. But his one was like you've got the beaters in the center, and then you've got the pedals on the sides. And I think the theory is that sometimes with the standard model, because of the shaft, one of the beaters isn't going to be as consistent or something. I don't know. I think that's what he was saying. I haven't actually looked it up. And he was sort of like, if you've got the 2 equally spaced, you're not going to get that kind of difference. I kind of think, though, people are right-footed and left-footed in a similar way to being right-handed and left-handed most of the time, so you're still going to get a little bit of difference. But, whatever. It suited him. So, he was doing all right with that. Interesting kick pedal, interesting conversation about it. But when when practice finished, this is like at the uni, you book the room, you get the key, and because I was the key holder for that day. I had to stick around while he was packing up. Also because he was from outside the uni, then I would have to, like, I'd have to make sure I lock it once he leaves and all that. So, with that, yeah, I was hanging around, waiting for him to pack up, and that's when he decided, like, everyone else had gone, it was just me and him, and that's when he decided to tell me, to do with balance and feel, yeah, maybe. But yeah, no, I'm hanging out with this guy, watching him pack up, just making small talk, and then he, at some point, I don't know how he got to this topic, he decides to tell me how he's only got one testicle, and the circumstances leading up to that, and I was just like, dude, we just met. I don't need to know about your single testicle. Like, I'm sorry for what happened, but, awkward. This is something I do not need to know, and especially like me being awkward about that kind of stuff. Generally, even if we were friends, I'm not sure that I'd really want to know that. And I didn't ask about it, and he just, yeah, I don't know. So as I understand it, it had something to do with some kind of cancer, and so they had to get rid of one of his testicles, and I was just like, okay. And I think he sort of had that whole activist kind of, cancer awareness, whatever, but kind of an inappropriate audience for it. I think it might be more important to tell these things to other males who might be at risk of losing a testicle instead of me, who has no testicles, and therefore I don't really need to know. Like, and I don't think it was even one of these more common ones where, like, lots of people need to know because lots of people are at risk. I think it was just, a handful of people. So it wasn't something that I was ever going to be an activist about. I don't know, I'm not really an activist kind of person. It was just like, I didn't ask about this. I haven't prompted for any more knowing about it. It was just, oh, by the way, I don't know if he was like that because this was a long time ago. I don't remember, but at some point in the conversation, he's just like, "Oh yeah, I've got one testicle," and I think my brain sort of shut down a little bit because I was just like, "This is getting quite inappropriate." But yeah, no, like once he left, it was fine, but it was just like, yeah, I don't know, and I mean. I think when you've got males and females, sometimes you do have to be careful about how you go about things, just because that's socially how things are set up. Yay, equality, but we still have differences, and I don't need to know about your testicles. I don't. And, I suppose if someone's dating, maybe that's relevant to you, but, yeah, this was a band. And, I don't think this is just like my opinion, but I think if you're in a band, you shouldn't be dating. This is a tangent. If you're in a band, don't date each other. Because like I've seen people in bands locally in Sydney who've, a couple of the members have been dating. And then, of course, the relationship goes sour because most relationships do eventually. And then, it becomes awkward in the band and then the band breaks up. If you want your band to go anywhere, don't date within your band. There are only a handful of people mature enough to make that work in the long term if a breakup does happen. And, sometimes don't crap where you eat vegetable. Yeah. It's a difficult thing, you have to be a particular kind of person to date someone in a band and then keep the band going after you've broken up. And then also sometimes it's annoying for other band members if you are dating. Because, you two are off doing whatever and, paying so much attention to each other and everyone else is just like, yeah, all right. So I think it's a bad idea. And yeah, one of the things that I think killed my second attempt at Dead in Motion, I only make an exception for the dating thing if the couple are already together before the formation of a band. Yeah, I suppose you could, if they were dating before the band and they're putting it together as like, hey, we're together, let's make a band, maybe, but I kind of think that's a bad idea because relationships do tend to end, and usually when relationships end, it's not happy. You know, Yeah, maybe if they're like super solid and they've been together for ages, but I don't know. You never really know what's going to happen with that stuff, and it's just like better for the long-term life of your band if you don't do that. But that's my opinion, and other people do whatever they want. Um, but yeah, no, with my second attempt at getting Dead in Motion off the ground, what one of the things that killed it, like I was working with this guitarist who was also at my uni for a while, and when we started working together, he was dating a girl, but then they broke up, and at some point he asked me out, and I said no, and that just it's awkward. Like once you've said no to someone who has expressed that kind of interest in you, it's just like, yeah, awkward feelings, and mm, didn't go forward with it. So Dead in Motion never really made it any further than just a uni band. But I did do a lot of song development throughout that, and that's some of them eventually made their way to Rainbow Death Ray. So if I just look at that, where am I? Wrong one. Oh, do I have Rainbow Death Ray? Just scroll down. Okay, so oh wow, all of the Rainbow Death Ray songs on our EP had some kind of a life before they made it to Rainbow Death Ray. So I think Lost and Dead Inside I started developing with Dead in Motion. What You've Become, we had to do band classes as part of uni, and they were called ensemble. And one time they had metal ensemble, and so that's when we had to, like, it was really weird. Instead of just getting us to play metal, I think because the performance department didn't want to run heavy metal at this time. They were all about jazz and pop, and it was really frustrating. But eventually, I think someone in audio, one of my friends who was studying audio while I was studying composition, he lobbied for a metal ensemble, and it ended up coming under the umbrella of the sort of composition production department. And so because it was in the composition department, when they first brought out metal ensemble, they made us write songs. And so What You've Become, I wrote for that group, and it was in a different tuning because I think they were just doing standard tuning, whereas the final version's in drop C. I probably wrote it in drop D to begin with. But yeah, it got shifted up to E. So when it was in that standard tuning, it was a lot higher in my voice, which was a little bit difficult, and it sounded wrong. It sort of popped into my head voice register instead of being able to sing it with a bit more grr, it was prettier. There might be a video online of it somewhere, I don't know. But yeah, that's where What You've Become came from. And it's about a cat because when I was writing the lyrics to it, like I wrote all the music and then I had to write the lyrics to it, and I was just like, I don't know what to write about. And I was living with my ex at the time, and he had a cat, and I was like, cat. So I wrote about the cat because the cat, this is a sort of getting older as a cat, and these other cats were coming into the laundry and eating our cat's food, and he was just sitting there watching and sort of being kind of pathetic, and you could tell that he was dying. And so What You've Become is about this cat losing his territory and sort of fading into this old man, and having chased birds and stuff his whole life and terrorized them, now he was being terrorized. So it sounds like it's about a person, but it's actually about a cat. And if you listen closely, like, I think one of the lyrics is like curled in terror, and so I'm imagining this cat curled up. Yeah, I like putting hidden meanings into lyrics. But yeah, so What You've Become was for metal ensemble, and then I've changed it up from there. All of them had to be changed up because Rainbow Death Ray had no drummer, so I had to do production and then throw in some extra electronic stuff. With that metal ensemble, we did have a keyboard player. So I think What You've Become is it after the violin solo? Or maybe before, I don't know, there's a keyboard bit. There already was a keyboard bit, but my guitarist in Rainbow Death Ray did her own thing. What else is on this EP? Storm. Okay, Storm. I think right after Winter Gaunt fell down and before Dead in Motion number 2, or I don't know the timeline. It was either before or after the second attempt at Dead in Motion. Me and the guitarist from Wintergaunt tried to start a new project, and this was with a keyboardist out west somewhere with his own studio, also with a female drummer who I'm not on good terms with anymore, but that's not a story I'm going to tell. Although she unblocked me on Facebook, so I guess maybe maybe things had changed, but she hasn't said anything to me, so I'm just going to assume we're not on good terms. And then the bass player who was in Dead in Motion's second attempt, and then the Mormon guitarist. Was that 6? I feel like there was someone else in this band. I don't know, maybe we changed a person at some point. I don't remember. Maybe the bass player changed out for a different bass player dude. I sort of feel like that happened. Anyway, so in this band, which I guess I'll just call Wintergaunt 2 because I had the same guitarist. In Wintergaunt 2, originally, like, I was sort of, before that, thinking of doing a solo project and calling it, like, Frost Phoenix or something as, like, you know, Wintergaunt reborn kind of Frost Phoenix. So when I was thinking about that and, you know, sort of like a Pokemon-y Articuno kind of thing, that's sort of what the Storm lyrics, the initial stages were about, and like, you know, this is one of those overcoming some kind of hardship thing, but in a really, I don't remember way. That started in Wintergaunt 2, and then when that collapsed, maybe I should tell you about that collapse. So the Mormon guitarist was invited into the band by the keyboard player, but the keyboard player didn't tell us that this guy was coming to join the band. He's just like, hey, can my friend come and sit in and see what we're doing? And we're like, yeah, sure. And then, but when we got there, this guitarist thought he was in the band, and we're just like, okay, whatever, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, we're just getting started, we don't know what we're doing, fine. But we didn't realize he was a Mormon. And he mentioned something about Mormonism because he'd been on a mission or whatever, and but it sounded, the way he talked about it sounded like he wasn't a Mormon anymore. But then, I don't know how many of you know Rainbow Death Ray's song Blind Faith. The proto... That's my alarm telling me to go to bed. I hope it wasn't too loud. Because it's 10:30. So I should wrap up, but I'm gonna finish my story, damn it. Mormon guitarist. Yes. So Blind Faith is a song about my experience having grown up Catholic and becoming an atheist and realizing that, like, the clergy aren't telling the full story and blah 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 blah. Blind Faith. I'm sorry. I thought it wasn't gonna play the alarm loud, but hey. Anyway, yeah, when I was developing Blind Faith, I'm not going to bed yet, but if you need to go to bed, I understand. Blind Faith, where did I start developing that? I don't know, but I did some of the development in this Wintergaunt 2, and, I'm writing about my experiences having grown up Catholic, but because it was starting to sound like an anti-religious song, this Mormon guy gets a bug up his butt about it, and I'm like, so you're in a metal band where we're talking about all this stuff, and now you mentioned you don't want to go into religion. Okay then. And it was just really awkward because the keyboard player wasn't there at that time, so, you know, he must have known that this could have been an issue, but he didn't step in or anything because he wasn't there. And yeah, it was heaps awkward because he's like, I don't like where this song is going, and I'm like, and he's going, I'm a Mormon, and I'm like, what? And because it was so unexpected that for me to find out that he was a Mormon, and like I had just been learning about some of the weird shit that is Mormonism, I was not able to censor my reaction to that. Yeah, and awkward, and that's what killed Wintergaunt 2. Anyway, so I was talking about Storm. It was in development in that project, And then that project died because Mormon dude, who wasn't meant to be in the band in the first place, and because it was so awkward, I left the band. I wrote a thing to the guys saying, look, it's not my thing. We're also doing this like weird prog symphonic music that I'm not into. It was like the keyboard player was into Epica, and I got a bunch of Epica CDs, but I never really got into the music. It's too up itself. You know, long story short, it's trying too hard to be too clever and too fancy and too I don't know, it's not my thing. There's like one or two songs that I can get into, but overall not my thing. So once the Mormon guy had his fit, I was just like, I am out of this. Wrote my letter to them all, was like, hey, I'm pulling out, blah 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 blah. And because I had done so much of the organizing and whatever, without me, it just kind of fell apart, which I didn't mean to do that. I just didn't want to be in a band with this weird Mormon dude who wasn't supposed to be there, doing music that I wasn't really into, traveling, most of the time traveling all the way to this guy's studio because they rarely came to my uni where I had a free room. But, you know, his studio was free anyway. It was just like miles away, and I had to take my electronic drum kit there because he didn't have one at the time. Yeah, I was just like, this isn't worth it. Anyway, so Winter Gaunt 2 ends, and then I'm still at uni. I think this might have been the second time I went to uni. So after I graduated my Bachelor of Music, Composition and Music Production, I went back and did a little bit of the audio degree because, you know, I wanted to know that stuff. And for a while I thought maybe I would be an audio engineer. It's just like once I did my internship in a proper studio, I was like, holy shit, this is not for me. Yeah. So I think that was the second time I was at uni. So I still had access to the rehearsal rooms and all that. What was I talking about? No. And then I had to do more ensembles. And by that point, there was more choice with ensembles. So there actually was a songwriting ensemble. Now, with that one, oh, this was with Clive Harrison again. Yeah. But the problem with that ensemble is there was me, and then there were two guitarists. And that's it. That was our entire band. Fortunately, everyone was into metal, so, you know, we worked well together at the time anyway. One of the guys I had a falling out with later, so anyway. But in this ensemble, so I think the two guitarists wrote one song each, and then I brought along Storm, and then Carousel. A Carousel I think I had been developing for a girl that I fell out with. You know, music, I kept falling out with people at that time, but, you know, I don't know if that was me or them. It's hard to know because I do have faults, you know, there could have been things that I did wrong and, you know, rough times in your life and whatever. I'm not perfect at all. But I only know my side of the story, so, you know, I don't know for sure if it was just them or just me or both, who knows. Anyway, so Carousel I think I had been developing, or like the very basic bones had been developing for this other girl to sing. Yeah, and in this ensemble I brought Storm and Carousel to that class. So once again, yay! None of these songs were written specifically for Rainbow Death Ray. And then, yeah, Storm, I fleshed that out, finished all the lyrics and so on, took it to this band, you know, class band, whatever. And then Carousel, same thing, finished it off. I actually wrote the lyrics in one night in one of my poetry books, and it just worked really well. I just had to rearrange like which bits verse and chorus. So that was pretty cool that happened. I wasn't listening to the music. I just heard it in my head, wrote it down, and boom. Easiest lyrics I've ever written. Carousel's sort of about very Alice in Wonderland kind of thing. I think it might be like the Mad Hatter Tea Party mostly inspired, like, you know, it's not 100% following it, but that sort of idea, you know, about like this innocence being led into strange world and whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so both those songs got developed in this ensemble. And, you know, because we didn't have a drummer, I had to program most of the backing tracks at that time, so that was really setting up solidly for Rainbow Death Ray. The only thing is we had two guitarists, so, you know, they had to come up with stuff. But we didn't end up needing that in Rainbow Death Ray with just one guitarist, and you know there was so much going on in the backing tracks that it was fine with one guitar. I don't even remember what extra stuff those guys did. We called ourselves Crushed Pumpkin. You've probably seen the videos. I think I've uploaded them to this channel. I don't think I've uploaded anything live to that old music channel I neglect. Yeah, so what was I rambling about there? Rainbow Death Ray's songs on the EP, they were all written for other reasons. So to recap, Lost and Dead Inside were originally written for my first attempt at a band, which we called Dead in Motion, and only ever performed uni gigs. What You've Become was written for a metal ensemble. Storm was originally developed in Wintergaunt 2, but then Storm and Carousel... Oh, and Carousel was originally, I think, was originally being developed for another girl to sing and write her own lyrics and all that kind of stuff, but didn't go far with that. And then I took them to songwriting ensemble and fleshed them out there. And then, at some point, Rainbow Death Ray, I was still trying to join a band, but no one was, like, it was really hard to get any bands to take me seriously, which is a little bit of a problem I'm starting to have again. You know, just being a chick, a lot of metal bands prefer a dude. Often that's because dudes can growl and most chicks can't, but also, like, you know, vocal qualities are quite different, so, you know, some of them legitimately their music would work better with a male, some of them just see female and go, no, we don't want that. Anyway, at the time I was having a lot of trouble. Either people weren't interested because I was a chick, or I was having dudes, they'd hit me up and be like, hey, do you want to do a collab or whatever? And I'd be like, yeah, maybe, send me some stuff and, you know, whatever. And the first day we'd talk music. The second day they'd invite me to the movies, and I'm like, or they'd talk about the weather, and I'm like, this is not what I'm here for. And, you know, they'd start hitting me on me and all that, and I'm just like, no, I want to make music, you know? Hello, Srixon guy, I don't recognize you either. Hello, I don't know if you're new or if you watch a lot, but yay, exciting. Just talking about band history, somehow we got on this topic. If anyone remembers, let me know. Yeah, what was I saying? Yes, at the time, I was trying to find a band, and I wasn't being taken seriously mostly because I was female. Also, I didn't have great demos at the time, so that didn't help. And then if anyone did, may have been... oh well. Going back to that, don't date in the band, except it's... audition... What? Come back. Going back to that, don't date in the band, except it's so... Oh! Yeah, well, you know, it's not even that these guys wanted to be in a band with me and date me at the same time. I think they were just using music as a, oh yeah, audition your next girlfriend. Yeah, it was kind of like that in this sense. That instead of making music with me, they were using music as a pickup line. So, to get to talk to me, they were saying, hey, you wanna check out Courtney LaPlante from I Rustled a Bear Once and Spirit Box. She can outgrowl so many dudes. Yeah, gosh, there's a lot of female growlers coming out now who are doing quite well. Angela Gosso is the one I learned from. Her tutorial saying, like, basically you're a big dog. I don't know that I don't want to wake anyone. And, you know, I kind of overdid my singing prac today, so I should probably just talk and not growl. I was trying to do something a little bit stupid and it didn't work out. Anyway, so yeah, no, these guys were like, hey, you want a collab? As a way to get me talking, and then as soon as they had me talking, they'd switch it up to, do you want to go to a movie, and never mention music again. They never sent me any demos, or anything. They just, suddenly it's turned into a dating thing, and I'm like, no, that is not what I wanted. So that's why when I realized I had a whole bunch of friends who were all girls who all played music, I was like, hey, let's do an all-girl band. Funny thing is, none of those girls who I originally was jamming with ended up in the final lineup. They gradually dropped off, and then other people gradually came along. So, the first, so who dropped off first? I don't know. The keyboard player we originally had actually suggested the keyboard player we ended up getting. The guitarists just dropped off. The bass player originally that we had, she was actually the one that I'd done Dead in Motion 2 and I think was originally in Wintergaunt 2. So she'd been like following my stuff for a while. She's really good. But I don't like, she didn't need to practice that much to just get it straight away. It was like, wow, awesome. But yeah, so there was her, and then the guitarist, the original guitarist, we, after the other two left, because we originally had two guitarists, we found her through AIM. I think she was the only person who came to audition, so we didn't really have any choice. I don't know if I should be saying that. Oh my god. But yeah, and then just before we were about to launch, like do some photography and launch, the bass player dropped out. So yeah, everyone who was in the original thing disappeared, and then we had completely new people. Eventually picked up the bass player who came on later. Yeah, that was kind of a weird time. We didn't really audition anyone except the guitarist, but who was the only person, so it wasn't really an audition. But yeah, no, girl band, there you go. We just never found a drummer, and eventually changed guitarists. And then I got depressed, and that's kind of like where we're up to. Something about auditions I think we were talking about to get up to here. Oh, when we auditioned the other, like after when we were replacing the guitarist, we did audition 3 people before, like, one of them was the one who ended up staying. One of the other ones I still have on Facebook, and then the other one, she just, like, she wasn't even in our genre, so I was a bit confused about why she wanted to audition, but hey, give everyone a shot at that point, but these days I'm probably pickier. Just because there were so many weird experiences, I can't even cover them all. Met some strange and interesting people, and then, auditions that I went to, sometimes, like, they'd know I was a chick in advance, but then get me in anyway, even though they already kind of knew they wanted a dude. Like, I could tell from the vibe there that they were just getting me into, like, hey, let's see what the chick's like, but they weren't actually serious about having me on. There are other times I tried to audition for bands, but they couldn't organize their shit. Like, there was one band where things seemed to be going all right. I had written lyrics for the thing that they sent me so that I could go in and, show them what my ideas were. But then at the very last minute, they cancelled because their drummer lived in Orange, which is, I don't know how far that is from Sydney, but it's far. And yeah, his car had broken down or something, and then after that I never heard from them again. I was like, it's okay, we can reschedule. I never heard from them again. There was some other group who just stuffed me around, and I eventually, I probably shouldn't, but I sent them a sort of angry message, just like, let's not bother. And then they sent me an angry one, like, oh, we all work and we're all in other bands and blah 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 blah. And I was like, so are you a band anyway? I don't know. I probably didn't handle that very well, but they were kind of rude about it and really were stuffing me around. There was one band out in Penrith who were all right. It just wasn't my style, so, I don't know. Auditioning is a pain in the butt. But this time I can't even get an audition. There's like hardly any bands in Sydney that I can find ads in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, Orange. So the problem with Australia is everything is so far from everything else. So if you're in a different town, it's difficult. I know some people. There's one of my friends' bands. Some of them are in Sydney, some of them are in Newcastle. So like they'll split between practicing in Sydney and practicing in Newcastle. Yeah, and then I know a few people from Wollongong who come up to Sydney a lot to gig. But much further than that, it's starting to get a little bit much. And that's why touring in Australia is difficult, because everything's too far away. You have to drive for ages before you get to the next place, and it's just, it's not really worth doing. Sometimes the Rainbow Death Ray girls would talk about wanting to do things like touring, and I had to be the sensible one saying, like, yeah, we can do it when we have more of a following and, a better economic case for it. It's expensive. And you can't just rock up somewhere and expect people to turn up in the audience. You want to have some kind of an audience to make it worth your while, at least emotionally, never mind trying to recoup the costs of your petrol. Um, yeah, anyway, where was I going with that? This is the problem, I always forget where I'm going with things, but it's getting a bit late and I don't know. Auditioning, hey. And somehow I got onto the topic of Rainbow Death Ray's songs. I don't remember how I got onto that topic. Anyway. So I guess that's my music history in a nutshell, maybe. Hoping I can find another band. I think just I've had chats with, at least one person who seems promising. But, I think I sort of also just need to reassess exactly what I want in a new band because, I'm not as optimistic as I used to be. So I don't think I'm gonna do it the same way where I was just like trying everything to be in a band. I feel like I want to be smarter about it because, I only have a certain amount of energy. Rainbow Death Ray collapsed because I burned out, basically. I was trying to do too much. I was in charge of so many things. And yeah, doing my day job, coming home, doing the EP, that was really too much because then when my grandparents died, I couldn't handle it. The whole thing collapsed because because I was doing so much in that band. I said to them, like, guys, if you want to find another singer, that's okay because I don't know when I'm going to be able to come back. And they were like, no, it's not going to be the same band if you don't come back. And I don't think it's just because of me as a singer. I think it's also because I was doing so much extra stuff. Dwight Brady, what would make you go solo? I actually have a solo EP. It should be in the description if I've done things right. Yeah, I don't know how long you've been following me for, but last year, last year I finished my Master of Art degree. Yeah, I keep doing degrees and useless things, but I got kind of tired of the art thing, so I did music for my final semester. Like I talked to the professor and was like, hey, I've got this idea. So that's part of the reason why, if you have a look at it, the EP released under my username, which has now become my artist name, that EP is called Asexuality, and that was partly because I was like, well, I'm at an art school, they're all about conceptual stuff, and the guidelines were like, it has to be meaningful and all that kind of stuff, and especially art unis tend to be a little bit left-leaning, so if you choose one of those topics, you're more likely to get things through. I know, we're getting into really cynical stuff, hey. I do think about these things and strategy and whatever, and, with art, like I never expected to be good at art, but I was good at art uni. I think partly because of my writing, I can justify why I've made certain choices and explain the crap out of them. Whereas some of the other students, like it's so hard to get a straightforward answer because they've got so much going on in their heads, but not all of it's relevant, and they'll just waffle on. Kind of like I do on camera, but they're given 3 minutes to talk about their concept, and in 3 minutes they haven't even gotten started on what their thing actually means. They're on some tangent about how they went to some place and blah 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 blah, and you're just like, oh my god, and the teachers don't have the guts to tell them to stop, or get to the point or anything. Where was I going with that? Oh, the EP. Yeah, so anyway, universities aren't universities, left-leaning, choose a left-leaning topic, asexuality. I don't really care that much these days because I've sort of, I don't really have any strong feelings of identity. So, whereas 10 years ago I was trying to figure out, like, who am I? Torturing myself over that and all the internal struggles in that sense. By last year, I just was so dead inside that I couldn't care anymore. But I was like, look, I've decided I'm not going to date anymore. I'm a little bit confused about all the definitions because these days there are more definitions than when I first looked into it, or at least I've found more definitions than when I first looked into it. I think like 10 years ago, I do not remember romantic orientations being a thing. And I don't consider myself romantic anyway. I think I was dating for all the wrong reasons, but that's another ramble probably, because, we're getting up to 11 p.m. Yeah, but I thought, hey, I do know a bunch of stuff about asexuality. I had been following a group on Facebook and learning more, and that's how I know about all this extra stuff. Like what did they call it? Like aesthetic orientations and no, platonic. I think there's aesthetic and platonic orientations now. And so I'm like, so we're determining what genders of people we want to be friends with. Am I understanding things correctly? I find that really bizarre, but whatever. No, I'd been following this Facebook page or group or whatever about asexuality, learning a bunch of stuff, and then coming across all the bullshit, particularly on the gender side of things. Like the asexual community splitting things is bad enough, but then you've got the gender people, and they're quite a bit more aggressive than the sexuality people. Yeah, so, I'd kind of gotten the shits with them and stopped following them and was just like, oh my god, I can't do it. But, yeah, by the end of my Master of Art degree, I'd kind of gotten sick of art. I just didn't know where I was going. I had one teacher saying I should work with text more because we had to write a little blog. I think if you're on my Patreon, I put that in the goodies one time, like the entire blog that I wrote. And this teacher was reading it every week. I even asked her at the start of semester, do you have a word limit? And she said no. And I was like, and the other students were like, oh shit, because they knew that I was a obsessive writer. So kind of funny. But yeah, she, after reading my blogs, and she actually found like my blogs probably more compelling than the artwork itself. So she's like, you should work with text. In another class, I don't know how much I've talked about Sheep Nazi, but I think if you've read some of my Patreon, that might have been a public article. I don't know if I mentioned Sheep Nazi in it. Anyway, he liked my audio work. And over the summer when I was like, what am I going to do for my final project? And I'm thinking, they're like words, sounds. I had experimented with some other stuff, like doing it visually, but it didn't really turn out what I wanted it to be. I was just like, you know what words and sounds seems like? It seems like songwriting. So, Sheep Nazi. Oh, you don't know Sheep Nazi. Paper Vampire, I would have thought you did, but I guess I'll talk about that one day, but I may have to drop like a name, and I'm not sure that I want to at this point. We can talk about Sheep Nazi one day. Anyway, I do. Oh, not the Nazi, but no, Sheep Nazi is just the name because he was really like trying to push his ideas on people and not really listening, and so it's my exaggeration of like fascism and whatever, because he was awful. He's like trying to force his ideas on people, and if you didn't follow, good luck to your marks kind of thing, I don't think he was quite so bad to completely give you a bad mark if you didn't follow his thing, but he was very much pushing that. No, he wasn't actually like Hitler or anything. This is just me being exaggerating, I gave him many different names while it was happening, so I think I probably used Sheepfool as well. But yeah, no. Of all the names that I gave him, Sheep Nazi is just the one that was easiest for me to remember. Yeah, anyway, so with that final Master of Art semester and thinking about it over the holidays, I was like, I should just do music again. And the other thing is, I've had this project that I've been working on for a while. If you're on Patreon, you might know that as well. And I've been hoping it would come good. And I think that's part of the reason my trip to Japan helped me with my depression so much, because I was thinking about this project going, I should buy clothes for this project. That kind of helped me do my shopping, and my mum's convinced that the retail therapy is what I needed and not psychotherapy or drug therapy. Oh my god, it makes me feel so girly that I got better because of shopping. But no, I was thinking about this music project and, getting kind of hopeful, but then nothing had happened for ages, and I thought, well, while I'm waiting for that, I might as well do my own solo stuff. I had started music, when I first started taking music seriously, I kind of wanted to be a solo artist, thinking of 9 Inch Nails. That's what 9 Inch Nails' Happiness in Slavery is the song that I think got me interested in music. properly, and also finding out that he was just one dude, I was like, wow, one person can make this music, that's exciting, I will learn to write music. So, you know, long-term goal. My other project, which like I really love the sound of it, the guy that I'm working with is so talented, it's just like he's got a lot going on in his life and it hasn't gone anywhere at the moment. You know, there's a chance of something this year, but I'm not holding out, you know, you will see. But I just thought, yeah, I'll release my own music and I'll use my Master of Art, because I tend to get things done better when I'm at uni, like with uni deadlines and so on. You know, it forces me to work, and it also forces me not to be too much of a perfectionist because you've got a deadline. And so I floated the idea with my professor, especially when he like was giving out the guidelines, and you know, you should try and do something like that you're not a beginner at. So I'm not a beginner at music. Chuck in the asexuality, and you have project. And he was really into it. He didn't know how to help me with it. He tried to set me up with the guy behind Pauline Pants Down, because he works at COFA, which is now called UNSW Art and Design, but he was on leave at the time. So yeah, I kind of just did this alone. Ended up with an EP. It's got 5 songs. Yeah. So You Won't is about people trying to change me and me going, you won't. Catch-22 is when you tell people you're asexual, they'll be like, on the one hand, if you've never tried sex or relationships or whatever, how do you know you don't like it? But then if you do try it, what people often find is that people will be like, well, you did date someone, so you can't be asexual kind of thing. It's like this catch-22. That's what the song's about. You know, the different contradictions, people expecting you to be, you know, they've always got something they can throw back at you. Navigating the Nightmare is like, you know, you see so many ads that are sexualized, and it's just like, it's freaking everywhere on all your TV shows. Quite often, oh, I just got to rescue another ant. I'm coming to help you. All right. Come on. There you go. Nope, doesn't want to get off the chopstick ride. Come on. Oh, look, I'm gonna squish you if you don't get off. I don't even do it on purpose. It's just sometimes they take a while to get off the chopstick, and I worry that I'm squishing them in the process. Bloody hell, little ant. Okay. No, Navigating the Nightmare. Yeah, I don't like, there are very few movies with sex scenes where I can, like, watch it. Maybe the only one that I can remember off the top of my head is Vanilla Sky, that Tom Cruise movie, because the sex scene in that is actually weird shit going on that's relevant to the story, but in most cases it's not relevant. You don't need to see it. It's just, like, you know, there for the people who are into that. And sometimes kissing scenes can be quite awkward as well, and I just sort of zone out and look at something else for a bit. Yeah, and you know, this is despite having dated and I have kissed guys, but you know, I still don't want to watch someone else do it. And you know, even remembering it for me is a bit weird, because you know, I was in such a messed up headspace, I think. But then also I'd kind of disconnect my present self from my past self, so I kind of see that it's hard for me to think that I did that. But that's another one of those weird things that goes on in my head. Anyway, Navigating the Nightmare, it's about sex-saturated society. There we go. How hard is it to summarize? Really hard for me, because I like going on and on. The Psychologist. I was seeing a psychologist. This would have been the one that I was seeing around the time that I started YouTube, I think. And yeah, when I first saw her, I was like, yeah, I think I'm asexual and all this kind of stuff. And she didn't take that seriously. She's like one of those people who's like, oh, you just probably haven't met the right people, you haven't grown up. And then when I did start dating, she's like that kind of I told you so attitude. And then as it turned out that first relationship I was in was actually kind of like emotionally manipulative. The guy, you know, there are good times. There's always good times with those things. You wouldn't stay otherwise. But there was so much bullshit in that relationship, which I never really talked about because, I don't really need the drama, but you know, because I don't know if he keeps tabs on me. I blocked him on Facebook after his last message because it was like one of those, I'm sorry, but, so then it's not a sorry, you know? There are ways to apologize properly, you know? You gotta swallow your pride sometimes. Yeah, and that was around the time that I was working on Rainbow Death Ray's EP, and I just did not have the energy, the time, whatever, to waste with him. So I was just like, and you know, he was writing it, oh, I expect you to respond in a, you know, horrible way or whatever. Just got another ad. And you know, rather than respond. Because, you know, what could I say? He either wanted me to be positive, or if I was negative, he was going to try and catch me out and be like, see, I told you you're going to be like this. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to. I didn't even read it for a month or something because I was so busy with the EP. And then when I did read it, I was just like, I think I'll block you. How did I get onto that tangent? Relationships. Oh, the psychologist. Yes. So, yeah, but while I was in the relationship, he was kind of a manipulative jerk. You know, good moments aside, though, like, especially once I moved to live with him, it was just like, you know, suddenly I'm isolated from my friends and family and stuff. He didn't want me doing YouTube, so he's isolating me from you guys. That's one of the things that manipulative people do to try and control you so that you have to rely on them for, you know, emotional blah blah. Public transport out there was shit. He only had a manual car, which I couldn't really drive. He tried to teach me, but the clutch was this close to breaking, which we eventually found out, and that's why I couldn't do it properly because it was really sticky. I didn't mean to talk about my time out west, but just like long story short, it was a crap relationship. And then I broke up with him and then bumped into him again and then got confused because at first it seemed like he'd changed, but it turned out he'd just become kind of more horrible. And yeah, the psychologist, you know, because she was so into this I told you so kind of thing. She was like telling me, basically telling me to stay with this guy who, in hindsight, I realized was this manipulative. I don't know if you would call it abusive because, you know, it's emotions and stuff. And, you know, sometimes with emotions, like I'm doing it to myself in my head. But, you know, like it was a toxic relationship, basically. And she didn't see that. And, you know, I've had depression on and off throughout my life, and I was obviously still seeing her for something. And so she's like, well, you know, I had been complaining about being bored, and she's like, well, you weren't bored when you were with him, so maybe you should stay with him. And like, you know, terrible advice. I needed to be told to fuck him off, you know, get out of my life. I had to figure that out myself. But she just gave this terrible advice. And I mean, when I first started seeing her, I can understand like asexuality in the psychological professions was more seen as like a disorder if you're not attracted to people. You know, that's a sort of health thing. They assume that your body doesn't have the capacity to feel any of these things, for example. Yeah, there's the psychology's understanding of it wasn't so good, and she clearly wasn't in the loop with any changes that were going on. Asexuality being studied in psychology is a relatively new thing, so to some extent she was misinformed. But and you know, that might not be her fault, but not listening to me when I was saying these things and sort of being too focused on the I told you so instead of looking at the relationship I had and realizing that it wasn't healthy. So all that kind of stuff is shoved into this song in the EP. And then Comrades, oh, Comrades is about the asexual community. Yeah, psychologists, I don't know. Different psychologists have different approaches. Like the first one I ever saw told me my problem was that I didn't have enough friends, you know, and I'm just like, I think I've got bigger problems than that, and I'm not a social person. Like, not everyone needs a gazillion friends, you know. I hardly have any friends that I see very often now, and I'm doing much better than I was back then. It's just like, you know, getting more comfortable with yourself, I guess. And I had other problems. I never told any psychologist about, you know, the whole destroyer thing. I think that first psychologist, I tried to touch on the subject, saying, oh, sometimes I feel like I'm someone else. And she kind of just shut me down with, oh, everyone feels like that sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a reason I brought it up, because at that time it was really bothering me that, my mind feeling like it was split. I don't have that problem these days, but I haven't really talked about that. I guess I'll talk about that at some point. Um, that was a tangent because of a comment, wasn't it? Yeah, the psychologist. No, Comrades is about the asexual community, and it was partly about like, that huge left-leaning kind of thing where, you know, the particular group or page or whatever that I was following was one of those hugely intersectional groups. So some of the posts weren't even anything to do with asexuality. It was like gender or something, and then people would get into these really vicious arguments in the comments if you didn't follow suit. Like there was the one that I got in trouble for, which I think I'll cover in a video because I can't remember everything off the top of my head. I wrote in the comments one time. But yeah, I made what seemed like an innocent, helpful comment and got attacked by all these people, and I'm just like, okay, we're all on the same side here. You just don't like the way that I'm approaching this, And I got told I was tone policing, and, you guys don't even know what tone policing means. You're applying it in the wrong way. I got all these buzzwords thrown at me, and, suddenly I'm a transphobe and I'm a TERF kind of thing, and I'm just like, I didn't even know what a TERF is, so I had to go and look that up, and I was like, okay, so you have to be transphobic and a radical feminist for that, and I at least don't think I'm either of those things, but, if you're not one of them, you can't be a TERF, like, there's no logic, it's just like, if you disagree, you're a TERF, and we're gonna kill you kind of thing. And then there was another incident. I think it was a page that had a group attached to it. Maybe that's why I'm getting confused. And in that group, there was like some fight between a trans person and someone with PTSD because one person was misgendering and one person wasn't using trigger warnings. And, it was nothing to do with asexuality, really. And the group got shut down for a bit, and when they came back, they had a gazillion rules about what you can and cannot say, and I was just like, I'm out of here. Because, so Comrades, the song, it's like, I joined that group after realizing relationships weren't for me, getting out of my last relationship. I had 3 relationships. Also, like, dated a few people through RSVP, but none of those ever actually went anywhere. It was just, like, meeting people. I don't know if I've talked about why I was on RSVP. But yeah, after I was like, no, I am definitely not a relationships person, I was looking into the asexuality stuff again. And, they're supposed to be support groups, right? But no, you've got all this extra bullshit going on, fighting amongst themselves, and if you don't 100% follow their, ideas, suddenly you're a bigot kind of thing, bigot is the new heretic. And, even if you're essentially on the same side, you just have a different strategy. It's like, no, you're a bigot for that too. You can't have your own strategies. So there's that. Also, with the asexual community, it's inevitable that sex just gets mentioned, because how do you talk about not being interested in something without bringing up what that thing is, So, they talk about that too much. And it was basically like, I don't know, you can probably analyze the lyrics, and if you really look at it, you'll start to get what I'm on about. Like, surface level, maybe it's a bit difficult to understand, but with some of the background, you can be like, oh yeah, okay. So it's about, like, going to a support group, and they're everything that you're not into. They're not really supportive, they let you down. And it's kind of an accident calling it Comrades. Like, I know Comrades is like a sort of communist kind of thing, left-wing, extremist, whatever. That was kind of an accident, but once I realized that it fit, I was like, hell, we're keeping that, Comrades. So that's my solo EP thing. Now, I don't really like that my artist name is now, permanently linked to this asexuality thing, but because, I don't really like that I'm sending this to people and they're seeing that word and maybe judging me based on that because they think I'm 100% serious about asexuality. But, it was a part of me, like a pretty big part of me, and it's still part of who I am in a way. Like, I'm really confused about the definitions because the definitions are always changing. But I just call myself an asexual and leave it at that. It's just simple. I know some people chuck in aromantic and, you know, all your extra labels and whatever, but I'm just like, no, I'm just going to use the one label, and only with people who understand it. Like, you know, I was at a gig, because I had to go to gigs, maybe rebrand it as, I don't know. I don't know, but like the other way that I talk about me not being a dating person, one of the assignments I had to do, I had to go and have cultural experiences and write a blog about them. I think I've actually posted them on my website, destroymariko.com. If you look in the blog section, you know, these gigs that I went to. And while I was in the audience at the townie, this guy who was a little bit drunk, and he had a friend watching him, I guess, to make sure he didn't get into too much trouble. But this guy was trying to chat me up and all that, and at some point he asked, like, if I had a boyfriend, and, you know, sometimes they start off with, like, where's your boyfriend, is just assuming, and I'm like, that's such a weird fucking question. But, you know, then asking me, like, you know, do you have a boyfriend? And I'm just like, oh, I don't date. And he's just like, why not? And I'm just like, just don't. You know, if I know someone's not going to understand what asexuality means, I'm not going to bother saying, oh, I'm this. Or I don't say I'm asexual, really. Like, what I say is I call myself asexual, because what do these words even mean anymore? And I don't want to say, I don't like labeling myself, like, how do I say it? I don't like the idea of internalizing it. I prefer to say I call myself this instead of I am this. Kind of a weird distinction to make, maybe, but that just works better for my head, because I overthink these things, and I don't really have a strong connection to that as an identity. I don't really have any strong connection to any identity, and that makes my life a little bit difficult, but I've kind of just accepted that. I'm gonna have to go to bed soonish. What was I saying though? But yeah, no. If someone isn't going to understand your language, there's no point trying to use that language with them, which I think is one of the problems that the left, the far left in particular, makes, is they use these buzzwords and expect the other side to understand them. And I mean, different political groups have different language. It's like if you go to the Church of Scientology, right? They have their own language as well. Lots of groups have, you even with your friends, you probably have some terminology. Like, my family has the term ant farm, which means, like, you know, something that you think is amazing and you look forward to it, and then you get it and it's a disappointment, and often it's kind of like a gimmicky gadget kind of thing. And this is based on something that happened to my dad and his brothers and sister when they were young and they wanted to get an ant farm. I think my godfather was the one who got them all interested in the ant farm. And they're like, I mean, I wanted to film one of them talking about it because they were actually there. But, you know, they're all excited about this ant farm, they get it, and it's just like, shit, hey, I don't know. I imagine that they didn't even get proper ants to put in it, like, you know. Because I've tried, you know, there's little ant farm kits every now and then. And, you know, you've got to catch ants. And if you can't catch the ants, it doesn't work. Whereas the ants that I have now, I've been working on updates for these guys, by the way. I don't know if that's in focus. But yeah, I think they've actually got new babies, so I might actually have a queen. And, you know, just because I got so many, there's things going on, you know. Today they're eating a caterpillar, which I think the caterpillar is all gone. My God, they cleaned that up fast. What was I talking about? In-group language. Yeah, so every group has its own language. You have it with your friends, with your family, you have different terms. Like, if I talk about Pukenui, you guys don't know what Pukenui is, do ya? Because that's my family's language, you know. I thought it was Japanese for a long time, but no, it's just something that my family made up and doesn't mean anything to anyone else. So, yeah, with, like, political language in particular, the right wing has its own terminology, and the left wing, my gosh, some of the terminology, especially because, like, I think it might be worse on the left because they've got more academics in those sort of soft studies, the grievance studies and whatever, and they're constantly coming up with new words to describe these things, and so the left tends to pick it up faster, whereas the right tends to not really understand, and they have different definitions for words. And sometimes the two sides are actually advocating the same thing, even, but using different language and completely misunderstanding each other, and that's where some of the conflict is. Though on a lot of things they do disagree, and they can't even understand each other because they're using different language. So, when you're trying to talk to someone about something like asexuality, it took me a while to figure it out, but you just have to recognize that they don't necessarily speak your language. There's a lot of people who still don't know what asexuality is. Even within LGBT, there's some debate about whether it should be LGBT, and I think I've mentioned before that I don't think it should be. I think it, to some extent, LGB, they're all sexualities, and then T is a gender thing, which, like, I don't know much about LGBT history, but I assume earlier on it was probably more about cross-dressing, whereas now it's more about, it's even gone past transsexuals. It's now this transgender thing. And I don't know that that fits in sexuality. Like, I feel like, I guess as a whole umbrella, maybe, of like alternative sex, gender, blah, 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 blah. But, I don't know. To some extent, they feel like separate issues. And the thing about asexuality is, like, I mean, ignore the trans stuff for the moment. If you're looking at LGB, which is the main part, which is the sexuality, probably the start of the whole movement, asexuality is like the opposite. This is all about sex. LGB, it's all about sex and sexuality and who you're attracted to, whereas asexuality isn't about that. Unless you talk to the romantic people, but, starting to get a little bit crazy there. But if you're just talking about asexuality, I don't know that it really fits in the same category, because you're not advocating for the same things. You're kind of, it's a bit like lumping religion and atheism together. Like, atheism, some atheists are kind of religious about their beliefs, but then you've got people like me who just don't want to be involved in religion, and have gotten a little bit bored of debating the whole atheism thing, and, whatever. It's a little bit like trying to put religion and atheism together, LGBT sexuality and asexuality together. But that's just my opinion. I haven't fully formed an opinion on that. Like, this is my preliminary opinion. I suppose there's more to look into if I could be bothered, but I really can't at this point. Anyway, so yeah, I have done the solo music thing. I've written down some goals. That might have been a private Patreon post, but I wrote down some goals about music. Oh, hey, Drew Carey. No sheep for me. Oh my god, a Seinfeld reference. I am excited by that. Sheep Nazi, soup Nazi thing, hey. Yeah, good night to anyone who has to go to bed. I'm gonna go to bed soon too, but, yeah, so, who was talking about solo music? I don't know if you're still here. Dwight Brady, yes. So I have done the solo thing. Just like, it was easier to do it in the context of uni when I had deadlines. Yeah, and then to get the EP actually properly put out there, because before I was just doing the performances for the uni, then to turn it into a proper EP, I used the end of year graduating exhibition of my uni as a deadline. So that's how I got the EP done on time. But if I didn't have those deadlines, I don't know that I would have got it done. So that's a little bit of a challenge for me as a soloist. I'm trying to use Patreon to help me with deadlines, but it's working for like smaller goals, because every month I try and get something done. But in terms of these bigger things that I can't possibly do in a month, it's been a little bit more difficult. And then, my motivation's been a bit shit anyway. It's hard to make myself do things. Yeah, I've still got issues, even though I'm not really depressed. Although I seem to have some symptoms of depression, just not the really bad mood thing. Anyway, so with the goals that I was talking about that I've written on Patreon, one of them is like, I want to join a band, right? But if I can't find a band to join by winter, what I'm thinking is that I will start writing more solo work and then try and get that out. At least demos for Patreon by the end of the year. I'm not sure about actually getting it polished up for a public release. But yeah, if I can't find a band, I'm going to be a bit more picky about the band. I mean, it's hard to find anyone to audition for in the first place, but if I do find someone and they're not quite what I want, I'm not sure that I will take the opportunity because, I mean, maybe I should because to some extent, I've talked about this before, being in a band could help me get my life together, like get me out of the house, get me being more social, all that kind of stuff. But I'm also aware that with any of these bands, I tend to take on more responsibility than I should. Like with Rainbow Death Ray, I was doing way too much stuff. I was doing most of the work in that band, and it was too much all at once. Yeah, I could list it, but I don't. Anyway, so I know that I just naturally take on those responsibilities. It was the same thing with my first proper band, Wintergaunt. Even though I was the newest member in the band, none of the guys wanted to book gigs, so I kind of fell into that role. And I know that with another band, chances are that all the other members will be male, and it's just a sort of a fact of life that males are less likely to want to organize those things. And I'm not a particularly social female, but you know, I probably will end up with that anyway because I'm kind of an organizing kind of person. So there's a good chance I'll just fall into that role anyway. And then I've also done a lot of reading up on social media. I live on social media basically. You know, anyone who is a Facebook friend with me and sees my private posts, oh my god, way too much stuff. But yeah, I'm going to take on too many responsibilities. A band manager, yeah, but see, like a band manager, you've got to find someone to do that. And usually that only happens when you're a larger band, unless you've got a friend who's willing to do it. Yeah, and then they might not know. Like a professional band manager will know. They'll want to take a cut of anything you make as a band, so you need to be actually making something as a band. Yeah, I don't know. At least in the starting stages of the band, I'm aware that I'm probably going to fall into some of those roles. You know, be a manager again myself. Sorry, I'm burping a bit. Yeah, so if I do find a band that isn't quite right, I'm sort of like, maybe I shouldn't take that opportunity unless it's reasonably close to what I want to be doing. Because, yeah, otherwise I'll be, you know, I don't want to burn out for something that I'm not really passionate about. And, you know, passion's a problem for me at the moment, but at least somewhat passionate about. Do you know what I mean? So if I can't find the right band to join by winter, I think I'll try and do something solo and we'll see how that goes. And then I'll probably try and make it about something that I care more about instead of asexuality and like anything vaguely political or whatever. I'll probably go more introspective if I do. Now, what was that? One of my goals for a band. Oh, look, I really need to take some time and sit down. I think I need to do that Jordan Peterson self-authoring thing because I think that's got some goal setting in it, and since I've got a free login, I might as well. But yeah, I don't know. That's sort of the vague gist of where we're going, and we're getting up to 11:30, so I should really. I've got to go do my stretches and all that, so I think I'm gonna have to go. But yeah, no, thanks for hanging out. And I don't know, I guess I'll see you whenever. I might have time to film a video tomorrow, but I don't know what to make it about. I've got a huge folder full of video ideas and requests people have given me, but it's a little bit overwhelming, I think. I think I've saved too many video ideas, and now when I look at that folder, it's a bit like, which one am I gonna do? I don't know. So it's really difficult. More streams more often, hey? Yeah, it's just a matter of trying to find the right time. It's a little bit more difficult. Like, at the moment, Dave's away, so with the parents asleep, there's no one on the ground floor who's going to interrupt. Mikey sleeps through everything. When Dave is home, sometimes he'll get up after he's gone to bed and go to the toilet, and it feels a bit awkward when people are walking past. He knows that I do this stuff, though, and seems supportive, because, you know, a hobby is a hobby, right? And it's more socially acceptable to do this kind of thing now. But I still kind of have that awkwardness about it. But yeah, I'm gonna go and brush my teeth, do my stretches, get out of this light because the light is kind of a little bit hot. Yeah, we'll say goodnight to Rubber Ducky. And I don't know, Rubber Ducky sits up on the little ledge up there. You've probably seen him in the background in some videos, but I just thought I'd bring him down to, yeah. Good night, Ducky. Have you guys seen that comedian with the rubber duckies and the worst roommate ever or whatever? He's funny, and that's why we now have a slowly increasing army of rubber duckies around the house. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you know the guy. All right. Good night, everyone, and I will see you whenever. What's his name? I don't know. If you figure it out, like maybe put a link in the comments for anyone who comes along late. Oh, and if you guys feel like putting little chapter marks in this, you know, go for it. But yeah, this is another almost 2-hour thing. I only meant for it to be a 1-hour thing. Whoopsie. Gosh. Okay. Well, good night, everyone. Good night, Rubber Ducky. I don't remember if there was something else I was gonna say. I feel like there was, but you'd better not. Yeah, you went a little bit crazy with the last set of bookmarks, but that was kind of amusing. Anyway, yeah, video. What kind of video could I make tomorrow? I don't know. I'll think about it. If you have like a pressing request, pop it in the comments. But I don't know. Maybe I'll look through that list of stuff, and hopefully I won't be too tired for it tomorrow. But I don't know. At some point, I need to edit videos that I've already filmed, like my cruise video and these ants. Yeah, good night, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.